What's up, y'all? It's the Media Mogul.
I'm posting with Tyler Jackson.
We about to do this interview. We got a guest today I'm very excited about, so we setting everything up, or grabbing everything so we can take it up. Yo, look at Orlando, bro.
I said.
We're about to head in here, make this thing happen, and we're gonna have a good interview for you. I'm very excited about this guest and about this conversation that we're about to have, so stay tuned. All right, it is the Media Mogul. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Today, I'm sitting across the table from someone that I've had a working relationship for a couple of years now. Man, I can't remember how much time it's been.
It's been about 4 or 5 years for sure. Like maybe 4 years.
That's just so crazy. Yeah. Like, it's crazy to think that I've known you since I was like 15 or 16. Yeah, that's insane. But he has watched us, us being myself and Mr. Tyler Jackson, who is our DP today. Thank you so much for being here, Ty. We appreciate you. But he has watched us grow for the last 4 or 5 years, and I've been blessed to be able to watch you and your business grow. And it has been quite the experience. So I'm sitting across from Rob Bamberg today, the CEO of Lynx Legal. And first off, thank you so much for allowing us in your space and agreeing to sit down and speak with me, man.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come meet with me. I'm honored. I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. Yeah, so I want to be intentional about just expressing, this just really stood out to me, and I want to acknowledge it. So, like you were mentioning about schedules, you know, at first we had a couple of days that we were originally going to do this. And there was one that you asked if we would be able to reschedule because you had something going on and you wanted to be able to give us your attention and your energy. And I know I already expressed it to you, but I really just have to thank you again and express the amount of respect that that cultivated in me, because I think, you know, our energy and our attention, it's one of our most prized possessions.
Absolutely.
And it's something that a lot of us don't manage intentionally.
Right.
And to be on the receiving end of that degree of intention, it really meant a lot to me, you know, that you wanted to be present and be able to give of your presence and your energy in the way that you wanted. That meant a lot to me. So I just had to thank you for that.
It's my pleasure. Absolutely. I mean, with so many distractions going on in this world, you know, everybody's being pulled at so many different angles. You know, last minute things happening. I definitely wanted to be able to make sure I give you guys 100% of my undivided attention. And I think being present in the moment is really important as well. Again, no distractions. To me, this is, I'm excited about doing this. You know, I'm excited to share some of the experiences I've had in life, and to be able to really, you know, think back and to, you know, go through and answer some of the questions you have without any outside distractions, you know, pulling at me. I think you're going to get the real me. You're going to get, you know, the best answers, and you're going to get the most transparency. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be in the moment. So.
Oh, I can tell. Yeah. I can tell, man. Y'all should have seen the text that he sent me last night. And I love that, just being able to feel how excited you are to share, you know, and to open up. I think a lot of folks in reality, but also in perception, like, you know, they kind of play their cards close to their chest. And so I'm really grateful to you for being willing to be so open.
So that was made up on the fly, by the way. That was not, I did not Google search it. I was just driving and I thought about this and I thought, you know what? And I started thinking, I was like, hey, this rhymes. It's like, this is good. Let's do this.
Shoot. This was an original. Yeah. This was an OG, yo. Yeah. Okay, well then I
don't have my phone on me, but you know.
I don't remember it verbatim, but I might like put it at the bottom or something. Yo, this man was spitting bars. Like, yo, I was like, yo, he's so excited for this. And I was too. Oh, you gonna pull it up? Yes. Sure. We need the first-hand account.
Yeah, let's go through this. So, you know, you obviously we're texting each other and you know, just getting prepared for today. Mm-hmm. And so you know, I said, I don't think you realize how epic this interview is going to be tomorrow. I don't need a script because I shoot from the hip, spitting real world shit. And yes, my rhymes are legit. Yo, let's fucking go.
Bars, bro. Yeah, I was reading this. I said, yo. My man is MC. I could not believe it. But yeah, I'm very excited to be here, man, and get it popping off. I think probably a really good place to start. I want to give a little bit of context here.
Sure.
So first, could you give a little bit of insight into your company and what it is that you guys do, and just a little bit of backstory on the history there?
Sure. Well, Lynx Legal Services, we provide litigation support to lawyers, namely process serving, service of landlord-tenant eviction notices. Unfortunately, the service of summons when people are getting sued. I mean, somebody has to take out the trash, right? So, there's a formal process in the legal system for when people are being sued, or when the court is requiring them to take depositions. You have to formally serve them a piece of paper letting them know they're being subpoenaed to go to court, or they're being sued by XYZ, or unfortunately, what we're seeing a lot more of are landlord-tenant eviction notices, where people are falling behind on their rent. You serve them a notice letting them know that they are behind, and if they need to pay or vacate the premises. Divorce papers. So we provide a process service. It's a formal notification to people that's required by the courts, and we also do medical records retrievals for insurance companies. We do skip tracing to locate individuals. So it's a lot of middle person work within the legal system. It's a necessary protocol for the law firms to go from step A to step C. We're step B, I guess you could say. It's just a formal process required by the courts as part of the diligence and the formal procedures.
So out of the services that you just gave me some insight into, like, I think a lot of those are, for the most part, I don't want to say out of the public eye, but they're things that most people don't think about, unless they find themselves in one of those circumstances.
Right.
And so I'm curious to know, like, when did your awareness, when did that veil kind of get pierced for you, and how did that sort of evolve into you potentially seeing room for you to exist and grow a business in that space?
That's a great question. So I was in real estate finance for 8 years. Did that from late 2002 up until 2010. It's no secret the real estate market crashed in 2008, 2007, 2008. We had the Great Depression, or the Great Recession, I should say. The Great Depression was 1929. The Great Recession was 2008. It seemed like the recession of the Great Depression at the time. It's pretty bad. So was in the mortgage industry. Life was great, and all of a sudden, these banks started imploding and going out of business. And so my best friend John Brady and I were both in the mortgage business together, and we just saw how quickly things were deteriorating rather rapidly. And I know people that one guy I know that had 26 homes and lost all of them through foreclosure. So it was happening very quickly. So we knew of a friend who was serving process, and he was saying, this is a great job, and we thought to ourselves, wow, life is really this life comes at you fast, like the Snickers commercial. Here we are wearing three-piece suits, and doing mortgages and going to these events with banks and stuff, and feeling pretty important to now we're kind of having to wear sneakers and running shoes and shorts and go out and serve people for $20 a paper. So but what got us into it was just a friend that was doing it and said it was he was doing really well at it. So my partner and I were kind of in despair at the time. As a matter of fact, John had moved in with me. He had a home, probably $2.5 million home on the bay in Tampa, and once he lost that home to the economy and the state of the economy, and moved in with me, lived on our second story of our home, and while he was living with us, his BMW got repoed. So it was a slice of humble pie, and so we're sitting there trying to figure out what are we going to do next. And to answer your question, we heard of process serving through a friend. He said he was making money, and at the time, desperate times call for desperate measures. So we decided, let's go ahead and start doing this. So we went and got our license. It took a day to get the license, not much required there. and we just started. We knew a lot of lawyers in the neighborhood as well. I had done a lot of mortgages for a lot of the lawyers in the neighborhood when I was in the mortgage industry.
Mm.
So that door was open, that opportunity was open to kind of get into that industry. And so when we decided we wanted to become process servers and start serving papers, we let all of the lawyers and everyone that we did mortgages for in the neighborhood that were in the legal industry, we made them aware of what we were doing, and a lot of them, they kind of opened the door.
They had a need that
Exactly.
you guys were able to help
So
them
we
out.
saw a void that needed to be filled. It was an industry that's kind of like mom and pops, and we decided to bring a corporate edge to it, a little corporate flavor, and really just bring some professionalism to the industry, because it really started out a long time ago where you have, your dad doing it, and then the son's doing it, and he passes it along, and then his son's son grows up and they pass it along, and we saw immediately when we got in that it was an industry that really lacked a lot of professionalism. And so we decided to bring the experience that we had from the mortgage industry and our the business professionalism side to the industry, and we made it work. Just getting involved in marketing events. I was really surprised to see when we first got into this industry, we were getting approached for sponsorships by various legal organizations, the Orange County Bar Association, the Young Lawyers Section, the Hispanic Bar Association, and to my surprise, there was no other companies doing what we do, sponsoring these events. When you're in the mortgage business and you get asked to sponsor events, there's going to be other mortgage companies there.
Right.
You're going to have other competitors there. And so when we got asked to sponsor these events with lawyers, and we're the only process serving company there, it was really surprising, but we capitalized on the opportunity and we ran with it. So we could have, when we first started after getting licensed, we could have easily went and worked for another company, but we decided to do it on our own. And I remember we got our first subpoena. We looked at it and we're like, "What the hell is this? What do we do?" We're sitting on the couch in our house, and we just kind of figured it out on the go, and we faked it till we made it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, started out in the home, worked out of the home for about a year, and then we got a small office downtown, a little 100 square foot office, and it was myself, my former partner, my sister, and my partner's brother's girlfriend had worked with us. So we have 4 people, and we're in this small room shaped like a box. And if you can just imagine how small it is, when in order for one person to get up, everyone has to make sure their desks are tucked in.
Yeah.
And so it was humble beginnings. When you go from being in the real estate market and real estate finance, you're on top of the world, to kind of losing everything. It's a slice of humble pie. And like I said, a lot of times people don't realize what they're made of until their backs are up against the wall. They say desperate times call for desperate measures. So, and I think that's where, complacency, is cancer to a lot of people, because people get comfortable. And sometimes you need to have your back against the wall. And that's why a lot of successful business people I know, they say never get comfortable. Damon John says a lot, the minute you get comfortable, that's the minute that the things are going to start turning south.
Yeah.
So you always have to act with a sense of urgency, and that was what we did. We acted with a sense of urgency. We started the company. We worked our tails off. We self-funded the company. We didn't have any business loans. We couldn't get business loans because when the banks went out of business, they stopped having money, so we couldn't facilitate loans as mortgage brokers.
Right.
Therefore, we had no income. Well, when we have no income and you have bills to pay, those bills don't get paid. And when those bills don't get paid, your credit rating tanks. And it got so bad that both my partner and I had to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. I was served foreclosure papers on the home I was living in at the time. I was doing everything I could to save my home. I had 3 children. At the time, my wife was pregnant with my son, and imagine being served foreclosure papers. When you have three children and a pregnant wife, and then to add insult to injury, my wife was wrongfully terminated by her employer. So our only source of income at the time is my wife, who's pregnant, and she gets fired, a week before giving birth to our son. So just imagine that scenario. It was a rock bottom that I never in a million years would have conceived. It's kind of like, in the movies, how you have the guy who's on top of the world, we're flying to Vegas, flying to Bahamas, you're doing all these vacations, you're eating all these great meals, and you think you've made it, and all of a sudden the wool's pulled over your head. You have a slice of humble pie. But I always tell people it's the greatest thing to ever happen to me because number one, it happened when I was young, which is great. That afforded me the time to reinvent myself. But it makes you realize that nothing in life is guaranteed, and in a blink of an eye, your life can be turned over, whether it be due to an illness, an accident, or the loss of a job, or the economy tanking. So, and right now you have a lot of people that are really stressed out with everything that's going on, and so that's why it's just important to not be complacent, to continue to work hard. And that's why I have a lot of respect for you. You're out there hustling, man. You work your butt off.
That I do, and I really appreciate that. It's jarring to be kind of looking at that juxtaposition between where you were and kind of where you're at now. And you mentioned something that I think is really important, that this set of circumstances that you just described happening when it did afforded you the opportunity to reinvent yourself. And I think that is something that you can very easily avoid doing out of fear, and also out of not knowing, what you need to evolve into. That maybe the circumstances are requiring you to be someone other than who you've been.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious to know, like, on a personal level, like, what did that process look like for you? Was it, kind of allowing yourself to be molded by the world and the needs and the circumstances? Was it a decisive identification of, these are the traits that I need to embody and I'm going to figure out how to get there? Was it a mix of both? Like, how was that internal dialogue,
Well, I mean, at the time, like I said, when you have hit rock bottom, you're willing to do whatever it takes to put food on the table. So is it a job or a business or a field of work that as a child, I dreamed of? Absolutely not. I didn't dream of getting into the legal industry as a kid. As a kid, I wanted to be a firefighter. I went into the Marines. I was a firefighter. I loved it. It was great. Got out and was blindsided by the state of Florida, which said we don't recognize Department of Defense certifications. Okay, great.
Wow.
So I've actually had to reinvent myself more than one time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in life, a lot of people will realize there's going to be many times where you sort of reinvent yourself. But I think being able to roll with the punches is huge, and staying focused and locked in. And let me tell you, there's never a time where I feel like people are more focused and locked in than when you're in despair, when your back is up against the wall. So at the time, it was, what can we do to put food on our table? I have a family to feed. What can we do to make sure that the needs are met? And it was something that it was a combination of that and seeing a void in the industry, seeing that there was really no professional presence, not a big presence. A few big companies out there, but there wasn't enough of a professional presence. So we decided to start the company at the time. It's called ProServe USA. Worked out of our home, saved up enough money after a year to get a small office, and it was just humble beginnings. Self-funded the company. Every dollar we made, we put back into the company. And there wasn't any steak dinners for quite some time. As a matter of fact, it was a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, a lot of
ramen.
Yeah, a lot of ramen noodles, exactly. And as a matter of fact, I've got a really great story to tell about peanut butter and jelly. There was a time for my daughter's birthday that we didn't have a big fancy birthday. My wife had some cookie cutters in the shape of the queen's hats.
Oh yeah. And tiaras.
Yeah, tiaras, exactly. There you go. And so she was, made some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and she was using the cookie cutter to cut out, these peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And so she went to throw away the crust, and I didn't like that. I was upset by that. I thought, man, this is food that's being wasted. It's not like we've got a bunch of filet mignons and swordfish and lobster in the fridge. We got some old milk, some water, we've got some cheese. It might even have mold on it. And we got some peanut butter and we got some jelly. And, we're throwing away the crust. And so I said, we're not throwing away the crust. We're going to put it in a Ziploc bag. We put it in the freezer. And we happened to get some, my mother had obtained some Universal Studios tickets and gave them to us as a gift for my daughter for her birthday. So we went to Universal Studios the next day, and instead of having the $10 cheeseburger, the $15 cheeseburger, and the $3 Coke, you know, we drank from the water fountain, and what do you think we had for lunch? The peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah.
The peanut butter and jelly, the crust.
The crust, facts.
Exactly. So, you know, this is before the Uncrustables come out. This is the original Uncrustables.
Yeah.
So we had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and so I'm actually considering writing a book called Never Throw Away the Crust.
Ooh, no, I need that book.
Yeah.
I need that book.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Because when you know, people, again, it's becoming complacent. It's remembering the beginnings, and you know, the peanut butter and jelly crust. It allowed us to eat. We had a good time. No one thought twice about it. You know, it was kind of funny, a little humiliating at the time.
Yeah.
People walking by eating cheeseburgers, sure, but you know what? Everyone's circumstances are different, and you gotta adapt and overcome, do what you got to do. So I felt it would have been incredibly irresponsible, knowing our situation, to go out and drop $10 on cheeseburgers. We didn't pay for these tickets. The tickets were gifted to us.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, we could have used that as an excuse to spend the money, but we didn't have the money. When you don't have the money, you don't have the money.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just really important to recognize your situation and to not try to live up and you know, what's the saying? Keep up with the Joneses.
Oh,
You
yeah.
you have to do what you have to do based on your circumstances, a circumstantial situation. So
Yeah. Man, I think that you know, when I look at my peers and my generation, like that is something we all need to hear.
Yeah.
Because it can be hard. You know, I think now in like the social media age, you know, in particular, like it's about the way that it looks to a lot of folks,
man.
and it's very easy to get caught up in that. You know, I can't even extend judgment there because like I can't even say that I don't get caught up in it at times. I'm curious to know what would be, you know, as considering the circumstances that you described to me, you know, coming from a different lifestyle and then seeing the circumstances kind of devolve into something else. What does grounding yourself look like then? You know, what does getting that momentum that it takes to maintain that focus take? Because I think especially now, there's so many, you know, like we were speaking of before we started rolling, like there's so many different directions and avenues and lifestyles and shiny objects that are kind of placed in front of you.
Yes.
And when you're in circumstances like what you described, you really can't afford to be bouncing between different ideas that might work, because if you don't stick with it long enough, it won't work. So what did grounding yourself in that look like for you?
I can answer that question very easily. It took you know, once you decide, you can't be indecisive.
Mm-hmm.
When you find out what you're interested in, run with it. But you have to be focused. You cannot. A big problem. You mentioned social media, and I would love to hit on that. Social media has a lot of positives. I mean, obviously, this is probably going to get on social media as well. And there'll be some good that comes out of it. There's a lot of good that comes out of social media. I personally follow, you know, Damon John. You know, I follow Mr. Wonderful off Shark Tank. I follow Tony Robbins. There's a lot of influential people out there that have a lot of good to speak. So there's a lot of good. I also think it's a double-edged sword, and it's no secret. Social media is a massive distraction, and it can also really it can distract people from being focused on what it is they're trying to do, because they see something else and they think that they have to be like that, or they got to go that route. You know, fortunately for us, when we got started on this, social media wasn't that huge. I think Facebook was just getting its off the ground at the time. You know, we started this in 2008. But you know, just being locked in, and being locked in comes at a price, and it comes at the price of sacrifice. There was a lot of birthdays, you know, that I missed, family events. There's a lot of ballet recitals. There was some practices, you know, and it eats you up. It really eats you up, and it's painful, and it's so painful that it can really eat you alive, because you start thinking, you know, am I living to work, or am I working to live? You know, what's going on here? And so you make these sacrifices, and those sacrifices, they come at a tremendous price. But when you do that, to make sure it's not for nothing, you got to put 110% into it, and then the fruits of the labor they'll slowly start to come your way. But just being dialed in, being locked in on what you're doing, and having a vision. You have to see the big picture. You have to have a vision of how you want things. You can't just, drive around in circles. Obviously, to get from point A to point B, you got to know where you're going. The same is in business. You have to have a vision. And one of the things I like to do is every day I write down a things to do list of things I have to do personally and things I have to do with business. And I prioritize them based on the level of urgency. What is most important that needs to get done? And so that really helps somebody like me who is easily distracted stay focused and stay on track with getting the job done. And I would say writing things down is a massive help. Again, you live in a world where there's tons of distractions. Social media is the biggest distraction. I'm actually incredibly surprised at how much time people spend per day on social media. I'm quite baffled by it.
I think they would be too if they were really hit in the face with it. I think it's a lot of.
Well, it shows your time. It shows on there how much time you spend per day.
It shows if you
Think about it. There's 24 hours in a day. Okay, most people sleep 8 hours a day. That's another thing. I don't sleep much. I sleep maybe 6 hours a day. If you average it out throughout the year, I've had times where I've gone a day or two without sleeping. I slept on this couch before here at the office. But there's 24 hours in a day. And when Instagram now shows people the amount of time you spend per day. Look at that. Cut it down.
Yeah.
If you're not happy about your life and you want to be more productive, do something about it. What do they say? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. You got to hold yourself accountable. So I think holding yourself accountable is massive.
Yeah.
Staying locked in and making sacrifices. I guess all of that. What is that? Would that be the definition of responsibility?
Yeah.
Being accountable, being responsible. Make your bed when you get up. The little things. And there's a book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. It's one of the best books I've ever read. And it just shows how all of the little things you do in time add up. And that's everything from the foods you choose to put in your body, the people that you choose to surround yourself with, your work ethic, going to the gym. You don't go to the gym once and see results the next day.
Yeah.
You go to the gym for several weeks and you notice over time, you start to see the transition. The same goes into business. And let me tell you, it is incredibly rewarding and incredibly self-fulfilling to really start to see the fruits of your labor. One of the things I showed you before this started was our new Tampa office. I know earlier we were talking about the 100 square foot office we had behind the courthouse. We eventually moved out of that office, by the way. I was in Vegas. I was enjoying the fruits of my labor. I was in Vegas. I was in the spa. I was relaxing, and I get a phone call on a Sunday, and I was told your office has been robbed. Wow. So our office had been robbed. The guys went in. They ripped the TV off the wall. We got it on video, so we're watching these people rip the TVs off the wall, steal our computers, and steal everything. They were loading up the trash cans with all of our alcohol and belongings. And we got liquor in the cabinets, for late nights, for maybe when days are a little stressful, have a drink to relax. But these people are stealing all of our stuff. And so after that happened, we decided it was time for a move. So we moved into the Wells Fargo building. And, here we are. We're in this nice building. We're leasing from a lawyer who happened to lease out the entire floor. There's a young lawyer who seemed to be pretty successful and, had about 60 people working for him. So, I'm thinking, man, this guy's really got it together. As a matter of fact, what's funny, I'm going to lead into something else here. That lawyer at one point kind of, he was kind of ragging on me. At the time I was driving an 05 Infiniti G35. I was proud the vehicle was paid off. Here it is, the year, 2018, right? So 2018, I'm driving a car that's 13 years old. It's paid off. It has a hole in the crotch of the driver's seat, okay? Imagine driving that thing around. You got the springs, coming out. It's very uncomfortable, So God forbid I ever got in an accident. I have a steering wheel where the airbag didn't work, and there was paint chipped off the car, and the horn didn't work either. So,
dang.
It sucked. When people cut you off, man, you want to be heard, and you're like, they're getting away with murder. You don't get that chance to lay on the horn. So this guy, this attorney, he kind of makes fun of me and is like, man, you're the CEO of the company, you're driving this beater as he's driving this Mercedes-Benz, bread box, brand new one. And so I was like, you know, it really like bothered me. I'm like, damn, man, you know, okay, maybe I do need to step up my game. So I ended up for my birthday buying an Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, nice little sports car. And I thought, you know what, I've earned it. I drove a car for 13 years. It's been more than paid off. Well, oddly enough, the same guy, the same attorney that I'm leasing from, all of a sudden we're getting lawsuits against this guy. And we get thousands of lawsuits. I don't really spend the time reading through them. We get thousands, I mean, like 50,000 lawsuits a year. So, but I get one, of course, this is my landlord. This is a guy who I'm subleasing from. And it was basically for him not paying bills. He was borrowing money and not paying debts. So he had a bunch of bills he was behind on. Some of them were loans for hundreds of thousands of dollars at like 30% interest. And I thought, what is a guy like this, an intelligent guy like this doing, borrowing, you know, these $200,000, $300,000 loans, predatory loans at 30% interest rate. Like who does that, you know? And it turns out this guy had an addiction problem. I won't go into his addictions, but it was a substance abuse and addiction problem. And he was not paying the landlord the money. He was, you know, using it towards his addiction. And so all of a sudden we are getting evicted from the Wells Fargo building, you know, downtown a year after. And I thought, my goodness, you know, we're trying to get settled in here. And that same guy that was making fun of me for my car had his car repoed.
Wow.
You know, so you see people, the moral of the story is you see people, sometimes they're flashy, you know, you start peeling away the onion and you realize, you know, sometimes it's all for glory. You know, it's all for show. Mm-hmm. And here I am, a guy that's being humble. I'm driving a car that's paid off. And instead of investing money into a depreciating liability, I decide to take that money and reinvest it and continue to grow my business, while this other guy who is a prestige, a man of prestige, you know, who's went to college, who is a board certified lawyer, has issues. And it's sad. I feel bad for him, you know, but it just goes to show that, you know, just because somebody has a fancy watch, a fancy car, you know, it doesn't always, there's always more to the story, you know. And so when that happened, it was really unfortunate, but it opened up an opportunity for us to come into this office where we're at now. And, you know, it's been great. You know, we've really worked hard and we've just continued to reinvest into this company. And we've grown an average of 29% per year for 14 years in a row. And
snap it up for that.
And when I say that, that's compounding. So, and compound is 29%
over
on top of 29 on top of, yeah, exactly. So,
man, yeah, that's wild. I will say, one thing, you know, when obviously as you're growing a business, like you said, it started off with you and another individual, and now how many employees are under the Lynx Legal? How many folks are part of your team?
Right now we have 14 employees.
Okay.
And then for independent contractors, I mean, we have several hundred, probably several thousand, maybe over a couple thousand. So,
man,
a lot of them work for, you know, they work around the country for their own companies, but they're nonetheless independent contractors that we use to serve our process. People we've built relationships over 14 years. You know, we send them work, they send us work. And of course, we have a lot of local process servers around town, people that serve process for us. So, yeah.
So when it comes to, man, there's like two branches here that I kind of want to go down.
Let's go down both of them.
So I think the first is like, Ty has heard me say this, and he's not the only one, right? So, you know, I'm always looking, I'm always keeping my ear to the ground, so to speak. And obviously I have my things that I'm focused on. But when it comes to starting and growing businesses, service businesses kind of freak me out. Just because, you know, there's so many people that can be involved.
You're right.
And obviously people are a very different variable to throw into the mix as opposed to product or inventory or anything like that.
Right.
I'm curious to know what have been some of the biggest learnings and some of the things that you are very intentional about when it comes to growing your team, you know, creating an environment that is conductive of, you know, fellowship and teamwork, and working towards something that's greater than all of you, you know. What goes into that?
That's another phenomenal question, because why do I feel it's a good question? Because it's a key ingredient to the overall success of a company. You know, when you run a business, your credibility is in the hands of a lot of people, especially in my industry. I'm only as good as the person that gets the job done. But how is it that we set ourselves apart from other companies? It always starts internally, you know, and it starts with the people that you bring in. Well, how do you attract good people? You have to just be a good person. I always, you know, I heard a quote once from a friend named David Miller, back when I worked at Westgate Resorts. He told me, I was 21 at the time, or 22 years old at the time, and he told me, you know, Rob, he said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I thought, wow, that's really awesome, because, and it was great for me to hear, because I genuinely care, and I genuinely like people, and whatever I do, I'm going to put my heart into. And so, you know, there's a lot of companies out there, and you know what, I don't know what their net profit is at the end of the day. I just know that I'm focused on me. And if it means buying cool artwork, to have a cool dynamic in the office, to have sort of like a style, you know, I'm going to do that. You have to invest in people. You have to invest in people's happiness. You actually have to care. You know, you can't do it and then not care. You actually have to care.
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you how many times I've helped people who are behind on their car payment, or, you know, a single mom that's, you know, her dishwasher, her laundry washer broke, and, you know, give her money to buy a dishwasher. And I also think it's being involved in your community as well. You know, people see that, you know, and I think people want to work for people that are not necessarily cracking the whip and looking down on them, that understand it's a team. Like, I'm only as good as my team. As a matter of fact, my team is a significant a reason for the success and the continued success of this company. But what keeps my team motivated? We do a lot of lunches. We do a lot of outings. We do a lot of things together. We really respect each other. Over the years, and don't get me wrong, this did not happen overnight. This has been a learned process over the years. You know, when you start out and you're on a low budget, you kind of have to get, you know, whoever you can. Mm-hmm. Sure, you try to vet those people as much as possible. But when you're on a limited budget, you know, usually most people are first starting out with friends or family, you know, and then, you know, as the company grows, those people kind of move on to doing what they wanted to do, and you sort of bring people in, and over time you just grow. You have to pay your dues. I don't think there's any snap of a finger, you know, that the success is instant. You're always learning, you're always evolving, and I think that just making sure your people are happy is huge. It's massively huge. Investing in your people is huge, and people see that. You know, we're in this nice Class A building. I could have easily gotten some rink-a-dink, you know, warehouse with cubicles, made my people work there while I'm sitting by the pool sipping Mai Tais. That's just not the way I work. And I've learned that the more that you invest in people, the better results you're going to get from people. And being, you know, results driven, it's important to me that my people are happy. My team is happy. They're my team. I don't look at them as like my employees. Right. You know, they're my team. We work together, and we're a well-oiled machine. And it does take years for that to cultivate. It takes many years and experiences and trials and trial and error, and a lot of failures too. And that's the thing. You have to fail. You know, it's great to learn from other people's mistakes, but ultimately you have to take risks. And if you fail, you learn from it. You know, Michael Jordan has one of the greatest quotes of all time, you know, about the fact that he's missed, you know, thousands of shots. You know, he's been called on to take the game-winning shot, you know, many times, and he's missed. But that's what made him who he is. That's what made him, in my opinion. And I apologize for all the LeBron supporters out there. LeBron's the man, but, you know, I'm an old school guy, so I got to roll with MJ. Yo. That's why MJ is a legend.
Some of these folks about to be mad,
right? That's okay. That's all right. It's a good debate. I have nothing but respect for LeBron. He's the man. So, but, you know, it's really just you know, really creating an atmosphere. And you have to think to yourself, would I want to work here? If I were these people, would I want to work here? You know, I've got nice desks for my staff, you know, and that didn't always happen. In the beginning, we didn't always have nice desks, you know. But over time, I think as long as you continually invest in your people, you're going to get 150% out of them. They're going to be motivated to want to be a part and contribute towards the continued success of the company. And you have to be present with them, be involved, share with them the good, you know, and you know, take them on outings. We did the outing, and over in Melbourne, you know, brought the boat out there, took everyone out to dinner, you know, and obviously those things don't happen in year one or number two. So to relate to those who are just getting started, you have to be willing to make the sacrifice. And when you make the money, you don't go out and have a steak dinner right away. You continue to reinvest in your company. Take 3-4 years. To hell with what other people think. Don't try to keep up with people on Instagram. Those people aren't paying your bills. They're not paying your bills. Matter of fact, shut it off, you know, and focus on what you need to do without distractions. An extra hour a day, you know, just think there's 24 hours a day. You're sleeping for 8 hours. You got 16 hours. Out of those 16 hours, you know, you're working maybe 8 hours, you know, or at work 8 hours. And how much productivity do you really have in those 8 hours? Maybe 4 or 5. So if you can steal an hour from your social media and put it into the 4 hours that you're working, now you got 5 hours. You just boosted your productivity by 25%. The little things matter, which is why The Compound Effect is a phenomenal book.
Yeah.
Because those little things are what add up.
Yeah. I think one thing...
I know I'm all over the place here.
No, not at all, not at all. You're touching on so many points that I just want to like dig into. One of them that really stands out to me is I hear a lot, so like, I think you and I probably have this attribute in common that like, we're always looking to continue developing, whether it's our business, whether it's personally, you know, we're always looking for the next improvement. And it's not out of dissatisfaction. It's just, you know, we want to see where we can take it.
Right.
You know, we want to consistently remind ourselves that there is no limit.
Right.
And so with that being said, you know, I am nowhere near, you know, my idea of what all that I can be.
You are on the right track. Let me
Well,
tell
thank you. I appreciate that.
Definitely on the right track.
I do.
It's
you know,
happening. This is the transition. You're actually in the moment, and this is part of your success. It is like happening as we speak.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize that, you know, success, it's really not this explosive thing that I think a lot of us can so easily find ourselves chasing. It's really just a series of moments where you can look at yourself and say, you know, I'm doing it, I'm doing it, I'm doing it. And that's been a really cool process. But despite that, you know, as I continue to strive towards what I'm reaching for, I have conversations with some of my peers, and you know, they have aspirations of starting a business, of whatever it is that they are aspiring towards. And when an individual like myself or an individual like yourself shares with them some of the things that you just said, it's met with this, oh, you know, I will manage things better when I have more to manage. You know, I will adopt that personality traits or begin to embody that ideal when it makes sense to, you know, but on the front end, I don't have money to manage. So why would I be so intentional about managing my money, you know? And I disagree with that personally, but I'm just curious to know on your end. I do too.
I disagree with that as well.
I think the reason I bring it up is, you know, how would you negate that as something that you don't believe to be true? You know, what would be your response to someone that thinks that way and believes that those personality traits, you know, those character elements will manifest when they need to?
Well, that's the thing. You have to take a step back, and, you know, a lot of these people are too far ahead of themselves. Take a step back and find whatever it is that you are passionate about and get started on it. Mm-hmm. The problem is, the reason people think that is they're too afraid. They're afraid to make mistakes. And so they kind of want everything else to happen around them, and then they just poof, automatically are in this position where they have a lot of responsibility or a lot more things to manage. It doesn't work that way. When we started this company, we literally started this company with $300. We had $300. I had $300 to my name. My business partner at the time, he had no money. I mean, he went from making $500,000 a year to losing everything. So, you know, sorry for divulging your personal business. It's all public record. My bankruptcy is public record, and so is his. And I tell people that, you know, this just shouldn't happen out of thin air. I mean, I literally started from the freaking bottom, and everyone's circumstances are different. I happen to have 3 children and a pregnant wife who was wrongfully terminated, and all this happened at the same time that I'm being served foreclosure papers and going through a bankruptcy. You want to talk about a slice of humble pie and hitting rock bottom? Other than being strung out on the railroad tracks, you know, I don't even think it could have gotten any worse. because not only was I was broke with a tremendous amount of responsibility. And so if I were to have sat around and waited for things to happen, there's a good chance it probably would have never happened. You know, a lot of times you don't find out who you are until your back is up against the wall. So what I did was I saw this opportunity and we decided to move forward with it. You know, our first check is $20. I still have a copy of the check. And I know the guy who paid me, Bill Umansky from the Umansky Law Firm. He you know, a lot of these guys, they knew that we had hunger. You know, they saw the desire and they were willing to sort of be the guinea pigs for their businesses and take us on as new guys. But it would never happen if we didn't take the initiative and do it. You know, you can't be afraid of rejection. You cannot be afraid of rejection. So, I mean, you know, they say that, you know, you never get the pretty girl, you know, unless you ask her out. You know, she's not going to come to you. So, you know, you can't be afraid of rejection. You just have to really just do it. Like Nike says, man, just do it. Don't be afraid of failure. You know, I don't know, man, it's just really putting yourself out there and just finding whatever it is that you want to do and learning about it, educating yourself about it. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You know, I know I'm kind of sounding redundant here, but it really is, it's a lot of basics, man. This isn't Chinese math. Being successful is not Chinese math. It takes a tremendous amount of discipline, a tremendous amount of dedication, determination, desire, you know, passion, sacrifice. You know, I know that those words, you know, kind of seem cliche, but it's true. It really is true. You know, and if I can do it, if I can literally start a company, and what I like to do, I like to show my staff this. Most CEOs aren't going to hire somebody new and bring in their employees and say, hey guys, take a look at our QuickBooks, take a look at our books here. You know, I like to show people, I literally started this company with $300 and self-funded it with no business loans. Could not get a business loan because my credit was shot because the market tanked. Banks went out of business, ran out of money to loan. You know, started this company and self-funded it. What that meant was every dollar I got, I put into the company. And every time we got paid and I put money into the company, that meant I'm eating more cheese sandwiches, more mayonnaise sandwiches, more peanut butter and jelly. You know, and every time I got another check, same thing, you know, and you just do that and you build it up and, you know, before you know it, you start to look back and next thing you know, you have this beautiful flower that's blossomed over time. You know, you got to have good soil, got to have that water, you know, you can't be distracted.
Yeah, I think that's a really hard principle for especially like young entrepreneurs to ground ourselves in, is that, you know, when you establish that, not routine, so to speak, but really like when you are kind of rinse and repeating the same growth, you know, that maybe isn't the sexiest, maybe isn't the most explosive, but that is giving you more to play with and reinvest into your business, the time starts going faster. And at some point, because you've, you know, established the routine of it, you look back and it's like, boom.
Well, think about this. A lot of people, you just said on the point, a lot of people want to do what's sexy. They want to do what feels cool, you know, and more power to them. Listen, if you're in fashion, great. You know, everybody wants to be the next fashion mogul. Everyone wants to be the next, Michael Jordan or LeBron James, you know, and you know, whatever it is you're going to do 100%. And I always feel like there's an opportunity to make it big in anything you do. You can only look at waste management. You think the person that started that company thought, man, I want to start a waste company. You know, that's how unsexy is that?
Yeah.
You know, but the guy that started the company making millions of dollars. You know, it's not about, you know, for some people maybe it is about sexy. You know, for me it's not. It's just about what can I do. That at the time it was about what can I do to put food on the table, provide for my family, and take something, an industry, avoid an industry and do something that might not really be seen as something cool or lavish, you know, like being a doctor or being a lawyer. You know, I took process serving and we made it cool by adding our flavor, by being us, by being original, adding our style, you know, and doing good work and working hard and all of those things that over time have really catapulted our success. You know, we just opened an office in Tampa. I showed you that office there. We started out with a small office. We had homeless people sleeping on our doorway. My employees had to hurdle over these people to get in. You know, we were just moving the furniture. There's a bunch of dead cockroaches under our furniture, you know. There's rats in our building. It was an absolute dump. But why did I get that office? Because I couldn't afford a bigger office. And maybe I could have afforded a bigger office, but that would have set me back. That would have set back my growth. Instead, I paid my dues. I got a cheap office, a dump, to be honest with you. But it gave me an address. It gave me a presence in Tampa. And, you know, the people that we hired, you know, I explained to them, if you're willing to just kind of, you know, pay your dues and just wait it out with us, you know, until we can get to that next level, it's going to be big. And, you know, unfortunately, we lost a few people, and rightfully so. You know, you can only see so many roaches on the wall while you're working before you decide to hightail it out of there. And, you know, our lease ended, and we decided, you know, it was time to go ahead and pull the trigger. And, you know, that was 3 years ago. And so we were looking for offices, and unfortunately, we weren't able to find any. You know, and you want to talk about rolling with the punches, then COVID comes.
Yeah.
COVID comes. That was a massive distraction, and that was a massive, but it was also a massive opportunity for us to think on the go and to pivot, you know, to like, okay, like we have to make some changes here. We have to adapt and overcome, you know. And so instead of getting this nice new high-rise office like we wanted, we renewed our lease there in Tampa, but then we allowed people to start working from home. The staff was creative enough to adapt to the situation, and everybody started working from home, and oddly enough, during COVID, we had 6 record months in the year 2020. Yeah, and so again, the business has done nothing but go up. And after, you know, the dust settled from COVID and people started returning to work, our lease in Tampa, which had once ended that we renewed, had come up for renewal again, and we were able to finally get a new office, and now we have that office up there on the 41st floor of the Bank of America building. You know, it's above the clouds. So, you know, here we went from this low budget office, you know, and paying our dues and essentially being humble, you know, to now we're in the 41st floor of the Bank of America building, a Class A building, the most prestige building in Tampa, with an opportunity to capitalize on the various clientele in that building who we know will benefit from the services that we have to offer. So, and it makes me happy for the folks that stuck it out over there, and now they're sitting up high and sending us videos above the clouds, and you know, and these fancy elevators, and it's good. But again, that's part of paying your dues. That's part of being humble, sucking it up, you know. And before you go out and buy, you know, a fancy car, you know, drive a beater, get you to point A to point B, you know, paying your dues, being disciplined, and not you know, giving a fuck about what people on social media think, you know. Because those people on social media, I'm telling you, 90% of them, they're full of shit. Yeah. So a lot of them are, it's a front, it's a facade, man, you know. So, and that's just based on my experiences. Yeah. You know, I don't mean to be so harsh and say that they're full of shit, but I do know a lot of people that, you know, things aren't always what they seem to be, put it that way. And you can't get caught up in that nonsense. As you do, you start ripping yourself apart. You start feeling depressed. You have these like unreasonable expectations. You know, you just got to do you and focus on you. And as long as you do that, you know, everything will come into play.
Man, you just really affirmed for me that I am, in fact, right to continue driving my 07 Corolla. So
there you
thank
go.
you for that.
Yes.
No, I've been telling folks, like, people will tell me, they're like, bro, you need to get a new car. I'm like, yo, this car works. It's cheap to maintain. You feel me? It's cheap to put gas in. And sometimes, you know, it gets to me, but I appreciate that.
You want to know something? I don't even have a car right now.
Really?
I don't even have a car. Here's what's funny. That Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, that fancy Italian sports car I was telling you about that I got in 2018. I got it in February of 2018 for my 40th birthday. And doing the math, I'm 43 right now. So I bought that car, and it obviously came with the hefty price tags, a nice, fancy, luxurious sports car, 505 horsepower. It broke down on me about 40 times the first 2 years. The car ended up being a lemon. So I ended up hiring my lawyer, and you know, we went back and forth with the dealership, who's very, very deceiving and dishonest. They tried to say I put diesel fuel in the car, which is funny because a diesel fuel pump, it doesn't even fit into a regular gas pump car. So we asked them for the sample. They mysteriously somehow the sample it disappeared. They couldn't find it. So we ended up getting them to agree to the settlement to take the car back on the fact that it was indeed a lemon. And so that all happened during COVID.
Yeah.
And, COVID was also a really good opportunity to get back in shape because I didn't have a car. So what I do, I started riding my bike to work.
Good man.
So here I am, the CEO of this company, a very successful company. I'm riding my bike to work, and what do I care?
Yeah.
I'm riding my bike. I'm getting healthy. I'm not trying to impress anyone. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got children, I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm getting in shape while riding my bike and doing some good for the environment,
Yeah.
So again, it's how many CEOs you're going to see riding their bike to work? Probably not very many. They're going to be taking their Mercedes or whatever it is. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me, man. I keep it real, and I actually still don't have a car. I did just recently get one. It will be delivered in February, but I haven't had a car since May 5th of 2020.
Oh shoot! So that's oh man.
Yep. So we're going on over a year and a half.
So you're still riding the bike?
I'm not riding the bike.
Okay.
Actually,
I was going to say,
I either Uber or I take a Lyft, or
okay.
my wife, she'll drop me off. Live about 5 miles from the office, so it's just something we found to be convenient. We haven't really had that need yet. There's been a few times where it's been inconvenient, but being minimal, man, you really find out how much you don't really need.
Yeah.
Obviously transportation is something everyone needs, but we have a tendency to overconsume.
Yeah, especially here. It's kind of like a part of our culture.
It is.
Here.
It's
like
well, social media does that. They glorify these things on there, and it makes people feel like they have to have it. In reality, you don't.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised with what you can get by. Some of the happiest people I know are people that have very little. So, and some of the most miserable people I know, unfortunately, are people that do have a lot.
So you have it all.
Yeah, money doesn't buy happiness. Material things certainly don't buy happiness.
Yeah.
So
there's one thing that I want to circle back to because I think that it's a increasingly big conversation now in my generation. So you mentioned that on the front end of starting your process serving company, one of the opportunities that you saw there was to kind of bring a more professional touch to an industry that previously didn't have that, right?
Yes.
And so when you describe your first offices, like your operations for the first couple of years, right? And then you contradict that with kind of what your operation looks like now. It leads me to understand that, the things that you could see from the outside in are not they're not what define professional,
Correct.
And I'm curious to know what professional means to you, because on the front end of that, when you were just going about business, working out of your home, you still brought that to the table, and that was a seed that you've been able to water ever since then.
Absolutely.
So what did that mean for you from the get-go? Like what defines professional?
I think what defined professional at that time, and still to this day, is just how you speak to people. And being in the legal industry, you're heavily criticized. When things don't go right, and it's because a lot of these lawyers are under a tremendous amount of stress. Which that took me some time to understand. You got the lawyers; it's a cutthroat industry, and they're under a tremendous amount of pressure to perform and execute to please their client. That rolls downhill. The same thing with the paralegals, the legal assistants. And so what we found was, number one, how can we be accountable? We can be accountable by having a presence, by maintaining communication, by answering calls when our client calls us, by responding, sooner than later. Time is money, and when we jumped into this industry, we realized we're not selling a product, we're not selling donuts, we're not selling a t-shirt, we're selling service. Mm-hmm. And the only way that we're going to be successful at what we do is to provide the highest level of service possible. Well, the only way that you can do that is to be professional. And professional means getting to work on time, not going out partying and rolling into work at 9 o'clock and, checking your voicemails, from 8 a.m. and returning calls at 10 a.m. It's being punctual. It's providing the level of service that you would want in return. And I always looked at the difference between hotels. You've got like your Holiday Inn, which I definitely stayed at a bunch. Mm-hmm. Got nothing against them. And then you've got your Ritz-Carlton. And the difference that you see in these levels of service when you go to the hotel is very apparent. You walk into a Holiday Inn, Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? All right, yeah, cool. Here's your room key. Yeah, fifth one on the right. Have a good one.
Yeah.
You know, you walk in the Ritz-Carlton, it's a much different vibe. It's a much different level of service that you are getting. And I thought that's what I want to bring to this industry.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of saw this industry as there's not much professionalism. You know, it's, you know, Big John Stud getting the papers and going out and serving them, and he'll get back to you when he gets back to you. You know, and these lawyers, their credibility is really in the hands of these process servers getting the job done. And so for me, I take a lot of pride in everything I do. And whenever I get a job, I want it to be executed. I want it to get done. I want it to be perfect. And whatever I got to do, I got to do. And so being professional entails how you speak to people, being punctual, returning calls in a timely manner, you know, and just getting the job done, you know, and understanding that the only way that you're going to grow as a service business is by providing good service. And so you have to start comparing yourself and the type of service that you want to offer to these companies that are successful. Listen, Holiday Inn is a very successful hotel industry. Not everybody has $1,000 a night to spend on a hotel. I certainly didn't, you know. You know, when you compare levels of service, you know, I thought that's how I can separate. That's how we can separate ourselves, is just by being professional, being involved. I mentioned earlier that a lot of my competitors were never involved in the legal community. And I thought, this is a great way. This is another way that we can really show ourselves to be professional, is by sponsoring, being involved. And let me tell you, half the time I did these sponsors, I was, you know, sending out money I really didn't have. You know, it was another setback. It was another week of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, you know, another month of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But it was part of that sacrifice that we had that we made to be professional, to give the appearance that we are a professional company. You know, and let me tell you, we didn't start out with a great website. We started out with a you know, GoDaddy website. You know, you have to just start out. We started out with the business cards, you know, from the company that makes the business cards, you know, the low budget business cards.
Is it
yeah,
like
Vistaprint.
Vistaprint?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, they do some good ones too. You know,
Yeah.
And then you go from Vistaprint to Thicket. You know, you there's a process to being successful when you're starting from scratch.
There's levels to it.
There's levels, exactly. It's impossible for somebody to start out, you know, with you don't graduate from high school and start driving a Ferrari.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works. You know, it's really the same thing in business. But you have to control the things you can control. Your appearance, the way you speak to people, you know, the way you treat people, the way you treat your staff, the effort you put into what you do. Those things combined are going to get you to the next level. And then you just continue to take it from there. Then you hire, you duplicate, you delegate. You hire, you duplicate, you delegate, you know, and you pay your dues. And after 14 years, we've got an incredibly successful company that is just still growing. We're in the process of opening our office in Fort Lauderdale. That office opens February 3rd. So we are growing like crazy. We did $110,000 our first year in business. We're on track to do over $3 million. So, and if you take 100,000 times 1.29 and you do that 14 times, you get upwards of $3 million. So,
just to show that compound growth,
and
that
just
it really
think,
is.
29% of 3 million, you know, 900,000, and then 29% of 3,900,000. It starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, and that's where you see the fruits of your labor. It's kind of like working out. You don't see the results, you know, until over time you start looking back at pictures. You're like, holy shit, you know?
Yeah. I love your response there, because I think one of the most common misconceptions about business is, you know, if you're going to start a business, you're going to have $100,000 line of credit, or, you know, you're going to have 200,000 stashed away somewhere that you can use to start a business that's differentiated. And what you just described was that some of the things that really differentiated your business in the beginning were the things that you didn't have to pay for.
Right.
They were the things that you just had to be intentional about cultivating as part of your character. So I'm just so grateful that you said that.
But hitting on that too, it's important that when I say self-funding this business has been a blessing in disguise, it really has. You know, listen, don't get me wrong. There's companies out there, they get funding, you know, through venture capitalists, they make it big, you know, Facebook, Instagram, all these massive companies. That's on a scale that's not so relatable to the average guy like you and I, okay? We're not out here starting Facebook. We're not out here starting Instagram. you know, we're starting our small businesses and we're growing them. And yes, banks, they offer small business loans. But, you know, my experience with banks is they can be very deceiving as well. They can eat up a significant portion of your profits if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's important to be responsible. You know, people say, well, how did you grow this company after your credit was shot? Well, after my credit was shot, it took 4 years of paying my bills on time to get my credit up where it needed to be. There was one point in the first, I think, 3 years of the business. I went to Regions Bank and I tried to get a $5,000 secured loan, and that's where you give them the money and then you borrow against it. I did that to try to build my credit. Regions Bank wouldn't even let me borrow my own money.
Dang, and this is Regions?
Yeah, it's Regions. So, right, yeah. So, listen, nothing against the bank. It was kind of crazy at the time. You know, the market had tanked. You know, it was, I'm gonna say 2011. You know, we were coming off the great recession there.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, they wouldn't even let me borrow my own money. So, you know, I had to figure out ways to build credit. You know, you get these credit card offers in the mail. Capital One, everybody gets it. That's like everyone's first credit card. You know, 20% interest rate. Pay it off. Whatever you borrow, pay it off. Yeah. Don't pay a dime of interest. I've got credit cards with $50,000, $100,000 limits that I rack up these enormous amounts of money, boom, pay them off. Mm-hmm. And you'll look at my statement for the year, interest paid on the year, 0. As a matter of fact, a lot of these you can use to your advantage to get points and to get a lot of things out of them. There's a special on Netflix about money that I highly recommend people watch on that, about credit cards, student loan, all that stuff. But being able to self-fund the business and not really having to borrow money. You know, I didn't always have this fancy desk. I didn't always have this fancy credenza. As a matter of fact, we went to Office Depot. We spent $100 on a glass desk. That was our first desk. Got a fold-up chair. And when I say we started from scratch, we started from scratch. So got our next desk, next fold-up chair, and just kind of went from there. And then as we started to get some money and wanted to improve our appearance, we started buying nice things, but we paid for them out of our own pocket. We didn't finance them and give the banks opportunity to steal our hard-earned money through interest. We paid for it ourselves. And that's where patience comes in. If you want to go broke really quickly, go out and finance as many things as possible, and you're going to realize how quickly interest eats you up. Not only that, you're now in a position where you have to now think about paying these bills.
Right.
I don't like having debt. That's just me. I don't like having debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt. For me, I don't like having any debt at all. I like to just pay for things and be done with it. Because guess what happens when you forget you got that furniture payment due? And you go behind on it. Now they jack up your interest rate.
Yeah.
You know, now you're screwed. Now you got yourself in a pickle here. So it's good to be disciplined. And with that discipline came being patient and waiting 4 or 5 years to buy nice furniture versus financing it from the beginning. Paid our dues, saved our money, and then got the nice stuff. So
good, man.
Yeah, man.
Well, I think we're probably about to wrap up, but I wanna close with one last question for you, which would be to the person that has an idea, you know, that has a vision for a business that they see an opportunity to create, to grow, and that's something that they're aspiring towards. You know, what would be one thing that you would say to them if you had to get them on their way?
I would say just find out whatever it is you're passionate about. And I know people say that all the time, you know, and run with it. And sometimes it might not be something you're passionate about, you know? Sometimes it might, I mean, think about this. Who dreams as growing up or when they're a kid and saying, man, I'm gonna make the best lamps in the world? You know, most people, based on my experience, most people fall into jobs or companies that it wasn't their dream job or they dreamed about it as a kid. It kind of just happened, you know? Just whatever you evolve into, make the best of it. If somehow you end up getting into, working at Dunkin' Donuts, right? You learn how to make these donuts. You learn how everything works. Take the ideas from your experiences in life and make the best of them. Try to maybe you decide, hey, I want to go out and I want to go open up my own donut shop. You know, learn from those experiences, and whatever you do, give 110% and never quit. Let me tell you, if I had $1 for every time that I literally said to myself, man, fuck this shit, I'm done, I quit. I'm fucking done. This is bullshit. And fuck these people, fuck that person. I'm fucking done, man. You know, I would probably have $100,000, you know, extra. You know, but you can't quit, man. And it's one of the things I look back on is going, damn, I'm so glad I didn't quit, because there's so many times where I was like, man, fuck this shit, you know?
Yeah.
You say that, it feels good, then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I can't quit. You
Right.
know, I'm already like too committed to this, you know? But just find whatever it is that you're doing, or whatever, wherever life takes you, okay? Because we all say, oh, I want to do this, you know? And more often than not, life is going to take you where life takes you, and wherever life takes you, you know, make lemonade out of lemons. That's exactly what I did. I didn't dream of doing this job. This wasn't my dream job as a kid. My dream job was to be a professional basketball player, okay? That didn't happen. Went into the Marines and decided I want to be a firefighter, just like my father. So I went in, I became a firefighter, got out. Life said, hold up, you know, that's not going to happen. Got into real estate finance, you know, did that. Went and worked at Westgate, sold timeshares out there, got a lot of real life experience working with people, you know, learning sales, did really well at that. Just kind of decided I didn't want to do that anymore, got into something else. You know, a good guy that I really have a lot of respect for on Instagram is Gary Vee. You know, he's a good guy to follow. You know, and he really hit the nail on the head. I feel like it's never too late for anybody. One thing I see that I see a lot of older adults, maybe my age and people older than me, they kind of feel like, man, you know, I've had all these years, you know, that's wasted, and they kind of like, they're their own worst enemy, because they think, man, you know, if only I would have done this. If only you're still alive, man, your heart is beating, you know, you can do it. You can do anything you want to do. I don't care what your age is. Mm-hmm. You can do anything you want to do. And we've all seen the fold-up table Jeff Bezos has, you know, that he's working from.
With that Amazon spray painted
exactly,
banner.
Yeah, you know, like, think about that. That is legit, like, humble beginnings right there, man. You know, the man is starting out with a fold-up table, spray paint Amazon on there, and now look at him. So I would say, whatever it is, wherever life takes you, just give 110%, you know, and be original, be yourself. Don't be afraid to fail, and you're gonna see that good things are gonna happen. But you gotta be patient, gotta be willing to make sacrifices, and you know, the fruits of your labors will definitely come your way. And before you know it, you know, that seed that you planted, you know, it'll grow into a beautiful flower, and you know, great things will happen. So.
Thank you, man. I think a lot of folks needed to hear that. I needed to hear that, because you know, despite the intentions, despite the vision, like it's very easy sometimes to, you know, like you mentioned, get distracted. But ultimately, if your heart is in the right place and you're committed to doing your best wherever it is that life takes you, you know, I feel comfortable grounding myself in that. And you can ask Ty. I'm sure he probably beat me over the head in his imagination for saying this a couple of times, but like, I never trip about the future because I know that I'm giving everything I got now, you know, and no matter what the future might look like, we're gonna be good.
Don't be afraid to do the dirty work. You're not afraid to get out and get your hands dirty.
No,
I respect that about you so much.
Absolutely not.
You are not afraid, and there's more than one way to make income. You got to find multiple sources of income, which you've done. Mm-hmm. You know, you've done phenomenal at that. I have, you know, so much respect for you. I have respect for your work ethic. You know. You just got to have that work ethic, man. You got to be willing to grind, you know? Yeah. And good things will happen. So.
Yeah, I tell Ty, man, like he and I used to talk about this all the time, how we were going to look back on the grind one day and be like, yo, we miss it. Those are the good old days, you know? So I try and enjoy it while we in it.
Definitely.
Well, thank you again for your time, man.
Yeah, man.
This was awesome.
Absolutely.
We need to do this again. If you're so willing, I would love to do this again. And just, you know, keep digging. More than anything, like, I'm very big on just sharing the wealth, you know. And
knowledge is power, man. There's books. You say a lot of books behind me, you know. Well, not a lot, a few books here.
Yeah.
But I think if people spent more time reading a good book than scrolling through Instagram or scrolling through Facebook, think about the time you waste.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know, you go into the bathroom, man, instead of sitting there scrolling through social media, man, keep a good book nearby, you know, or, you know, you're going out chilling on your porch or something like that, have a good book nearby. You'd be surprised what you can learn. Knowledge is power. And as a guy that I don't have a prestige education, you know, as a matter of fact, this apartment that I leased, you know, my wife and I is an efficiency. It's a studio. I'm sorry, it's a studio apartment. Got the bed, the kitchen, and the living room in the same room, you know, and we could barely afford that. I remember struggling living there, and that's funny. Oddly enough, now I have an office, a high-rise office that overlooks that apartment.
That's wild.
And it's crazy to look at that. But what got me out of that into a nicer home, a nicer community, I would walk over to the library. Library does not discriminate. Library and knowledge and books don't care what race, what gender, tall, fat, it doesn't care.
Bank account,
the knowledge is there for you. You have to capitalize on the knowledge. And you know, there's so many resources out there. Why not take advantage of it?
Yeah.
Put away the social media and continue learning. And that's the thing, you gotta continue learning. The learning is the end of high school. As a matter of fact, the learning is just beginning. The stuff that really matters, nobody gives a shit about Eli Whitney and the cotton gin from 18 whatever. That shit don't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is what's now. Staying relevant and continue to learn. There's so many resources out there, man. So
agreed, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I think
You
we're
got
gonna
it.
close it out.
Yeah.
And I just want to speak to, you know, whoever's on the other side of the screen. Like, you know, I hope that you guys got a lot of value out of this. The biggest thing that I would say is just like be very intentional about practicing learnings. You know, when we're able to be on the receiving end of, you know, because I look at you and you're on the other side of a lot of things that I could see myself doing. You know, that I aspire doing. And that means nothing if I don't apply it, you know? So as much as that goes for me or anyone else, like that goes for whoever it is that is listening in on this. And so just go and get it, you know? And
find a mentor. Find someone that you really look up to.
Yeah.
I've had some great mentors in my life, and I still do. And without those people, there's no doubt I wouldn't be where I am today and where we're going to continue going without these people. One person, you can't do it by yourself. You have to surround yourself with like-minded people. Birds of a feather flock together. You know, you can't expect to be successful if you're hanging out with people that don't have the same intentions, the same drive, the same motivation. So find a mentor. That's huge. Find a mentor, someone that you can really look up to. So.
That's a fact. All right. Well, with that, I think we're going to call it wraps. Yeah. I'll clap it up.
All right, now.
Thank you so much, my man. I appreciate it.
You got it, my man. Anytime.